So today I wanted to discuss about the psychology of behaviors in the automotive industry. This is going to be a topic that I don't really discuss about, and so I wanted to talk about it, and particularly the issues that I have personally faced and been through over the years. Now, over the years, as I started in the industry, uh, when you start as a pre-apprentice or an apprentice, you're not always treated very well, and you typically get the shorter end of the stick. And so, over the years, I've learned quite a few things, and I've learned some pattern behaviors through different co-workers that I have worked with at various dealerships and shops and so on. And so I can safely say that there is definitely a pattern that's going on here, and it's mostly about the insecurities that some of these people have. Now, I get along with the majority of people, probably 98, 99%. There'll probably be that 1 or 2% of people you may not get along with, and particularly at work. So sometimes those particular people that you think that you don't get along with, or you know that you don't get along with, you need to proceed with caution when you're dealing with these people. And in some instances, you may need to avoid them entirely to protect your own well-being and to secure your job, because otherwise there's just going to be issues and problems between the two parties. And so now I'm going to give a few examples, real life, true story examples. I'm not going to mention any names, but I may mention the dealership or the shop I'm working at, but that's going to be it. I'm not going to get into the personal matters, but I'll go ahead and start talking about it. So the first thing that you need to know, first and foremost, is that we are human beings, and so we are not perfect. We make mistakes, and so the main issue is that when you are working for a dealership or for an independent shop, the shop owner or the management, they always tell you that it's a team. You're working as a team. It is a team to a certain perspective and standpoint, but everybody is for themselves. At the end of the day, you make your own paycheck and then you go home, and then that's it. So everybody's in it for themselves. Why are you there? Why are you at a specific workplace? For what reason? You are there to work. To work, to make your salary, income, or whatever, and that's it. And you go home, and you just repeat the same procedures day by day. You are just there to work, to collect a paycheck, and go home, and that's it. But the issue is it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes better said than done. And so you may come across with toxic co-workers in the field, particularly in the automotive field. I'm referring to people like your co-workers. So it's going to involve automotive technicians, service advisors, management, whoever management is. So that could be the service manager, fixed operations manager, and so on. And so you have to deal with these people on a day by day basis, so you're able to to do your job. And so one example I'm going to give you is back in the day. This was probably, I think, like 14 years ago. I worked at a Kia dealership, and the atmosphere was not very good in terms of the mechanic shop, the actual shop. And so you know right away that when you enter a certain place, you can feel the atmosphere. If it's a negative or a positive atmosphere, you'll know almost right away. And so the issue is that at the time I was not an apprentice. I was just getting my foot in the door. I had a very little experience at the time. This dealership was not the first dealership that I worked at. My first dealership that I worked at was at a Toyota dealership where I worked as a lot attendant, and then I switched jobs after that because I wasn't getting any progress. There was no room for growth, and so I unfortunately I had to keep on changing and switching jobs over a certain period of time in order to find the right place, the right dealership, or the right shop, the right place to work at. And so, because I didn't have any time to waste, I needed to get my apprenticeship started as soon as possible. And so, that dealership I worked at, the Kia dealership, there would be one particular person. Uh, he would give me a hard time every now and then. He was egoistic, ego-driven behavior kind of person. This person would try to find something in order to put me in trouble, to get rid of me for and whatever reason that was. I really don't know, but from what I know is that these people have insecurities, and so they are insecure about themselves, and they are probably afraid of losing their job, afraid of competition, afraid that if one day that you will move up and compete with them and take over their workload, or something like that. And so they have projected fears of the future, that this person is a threat, this person knows more than me, or something, or this person eventually will be somebody, and then I will be like they're talking to themselves, that they will be out of a job or something. I was only at that dealership for a period of 5 months, and so over the course of weeks and months since I started, I used to do emissions testing back in the day with the dynamometer, the ones that have the rollers. At the time, we no longer have emissions testing in the province of Ontario, so it's gone. It has gone away now. There's no more emissions testing for the light duty vehicles, and so I used to do that, and I used to wash cars, and that was pretty much it. Very rarely I would actually be working on the cards itself. They did give me a few opportunities to work on the vehicles, just to perform routine oil changes and a brief inspection and tire rotation, and things like that. But I didn't really get the opportunity at that dealership. I worked very hard there, as I would always do at every place I worked at, and I would be responsible for cleaning up the shop and stuff. And this shop didn't really have too many rules, and These guys were pretty much dirt bags, to be honest, because you take the oil change stickers and stick it on the hoist, throw stuff on the floor. You have old drain gaskets on the floor, wheel weights on the floor. The shop was, I wouldn't say like super disgusting, but it was messy. There was a lot of debris and dirt on the shop floors. And so these guys had no, like, they didn't really care about if the shop floor was dirty or not, because th- that was not their that was not on their priority list. And so anyhow, it was very difficult for somebody like me to talk to these people, because their personality was very bland. You couldn't really talk to them, so they were not. I would say they were not personable. They were not approachable. So it was difficult to talk to them. So I just ended up not talking to those guys unless I really needed something, and that was it. So anyhow, that was that. So over the weeks and months, it got worse and worse and worse, to the point where I started getting in trouble for stuff that I didn't really do. And that particular technician kept on finding something, kept on finding faults about me to complain to the service manager. And eventually, I got to a point where I had to have a private talk with the service manager. And I don't recall much from that conversation, but I do recall that the service manager was saying that I need to kiss a lot of butts in order to move up. But this I don't agree with, because uh, this is not how it works. And it's unfortunate, because it's very unfortunate, because the new generation of people who want to come to this industry and to learn about this industry, and then you have these kind of people who are shying away from these people, and it's not good, because eventually the younger generation who's coming in is going to be the new generation who's going to be fixing and working on your own vehicles when you need to take your vehicle to the shop. And so those people are going to be working on your vehicle. And so it's very important that the new generation should be treated well enough and trained well enough for them to want to be in this field. Because with this kind of attitude that's for this kind of attitude in the atmosphere of today's automotive industry is not good. And so doesn't want this is not going to make people want to get into this field, right? Because of the toxic environment that they are put in. So over the course of many years, it's been almost 2 decades I've been in this industry, and unfortunately, I had to suffer those consequences of somebody else's, uh, because I was a target. I was a target from these insecure people that put me in trouble for something I didn't really do. And I'm not saying I'm right all the time, and I'm not saying that I'm wrong all the time, but what I'm saying is I wasn't treated fairly from the places I have worked at. And so from time to time, I have came across similar traits and characteristics of these kind of people in the workplace, and mostly from the automotive technician slash mechanic standpoint, working with other mechanics. I have dealt with various dozens and dozens of technicians in my past and currently today. And so I've been through all of this. I know on what it's like And so unfortunately, I had to suffer. I had to suffer uh, from that because of somebody's insecurities, and I continue to suffer today because I continue to have a hard time uh, to fit in a workshop shop environment. And if there's anybody in these shop environments with any form of insecurities, that puts me in a bad position, especially that if I'm a newly hired guy or person in the shop, I'm under very close scrutiny by the management. And so if management sees or picks up that, this guy is causing problems in the shop, something like that. If you have a shop foreman or a lead technician who leads the shop, and they can easily just make up stuff and say, oh yeah, we don't need this guy no more. We don't need this guy no more. Take him away. Get rid of him. And it can be as easy as 1, 2, 3 that they say something about you, even if you did something wrong or not, even if you did everything perfect and you have a perfect record, everything is flawless, you didn't make any mistakes doing anything, it's very possible that they can still get rid of you for on whatever reason. And so, to be honest, that this is bullshit, because this is unfair, this is unjust. And I'm just upset because I have to go through this many times, over and over and over again, at various places. There's a pattern, right? And I can't say if it's me, if it's them, because every time I see there's the same thing over and over again, right? And so I can safely say that there's a problem. And every time you work somewhere at a workplace, more often than not always, but more often than not, there'll always be the 1, 2, or 3 assholes in the corner that you don't get along with for on whatever reason that is, right? I've had people dislike me because what? Because the way I look? Because what? Because I have hearing aids? Because I have glasses? What? It doesn't make any sense, right? Especially people I didn't even say a single word to them, and they just don't talk to me for on whatever reason. It doesn't make any sense, right? So it's beyond me, and why these people behave this way. And so after that, shortly after the incident, after I talked with the service manager at the Kia dealership, I think I was there for another week, 2 or 3 or whatever. And I think there was like a major snowstorm in the month of February. And the one day I called in sick. And then I think the next day I just ended up taking my stuff and then leaving. After that, I email the boss that I'm leaving, and then that was it. Because I knew that they were going to dismiss me or fire me. Because uh, if you ever feel that when you are in the workplace and you feel like there is something in your stomach, a butterfly in your stomach, or you feel like you have a sixth sense, and you can feel that there's a negativity in the atmosphere of the workplace that you are in, it means it's time to leave. Because the longer you stay there is is is, uh, is the sooner that you find out that the employer is going to dismiss you, or fire you, or get rid of you, on however you want to say it. And so sometimes you need to protect your dignity, uh, before they tell you uh, to leave, and before they dismiss you. And so I know these kind of people with insecurities, uh, these people who have these insecurities, they most likely stems from childhood trauma in the past, from how they were raised from their childhood. And so this is for them, this is like a coping mechanism for them, and this is why they behave this way, because they feel that when someone's insecure, they lack confidence, they lack those qualities, that they have fears that they'll lose their job, or that somebody's going to take over their job, or because on whatever reason it is. And so there's a number of different things, a long list of things uh, for people who have insecurities. And so that the main issue in this life is that everything is a competition. It doesn't matter on where you are, regardless if somebody says, "Oh, that we're a team, or that we're family, we need to work together." Yeah, to a certain aspect, yeah, you need to work together and you're a team, but that's about it. After that, you're pretty much on your own. Especially working in the automotive industry as a technician, you have to be careful, because it's very easy for somebody to get rid of you and replace you. Everybody is replaceable. It does not matter on who you are, whether you're a general technician, whether you're a transmission guy, an engine guy. If the employer has any kind of reasonable suspicion about absolutely anything, of anything, regardless, they will find a way to get rid of you, and they will get rid of you and replace you with somebody else, either replace you with somebody better, for worse, or the same. I don't know. It does not matter on who you are. Everybody is replaceable, and I have seen it. I have seen it happen time and time again at different places. Now there are some people who have been at the same dealership, same shop for the last 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 years. Some people have been working for the same shop all their life, and it's working out, and that's a good thing. It's rare. It's not super common. Uh, for some people, there's no issues. They stay at that shop pretty much all their career, but that's a different story. So I'm just talking about from my personal perspective of what I have been through. It hasn't been an easy one, and there have been a lot of hurdles and obstructions in the way, and I just had to keep on fighting. I kept on fighting, and I kept on moving, and I kept on going regardless. And today I keep on fighting, and I probably have not mentioned or discussed about it in my recent videos, but I am no longer working for that Ford dealership that I was working. However, I managed to find another Ford dealership just recently to work at. I haven't started yet, so I'm going to start soon. I'm not going to mention any of the details because I'm trying to keep things a little private, because I really need to stay on the low key. Although I do have a YouTube channel, but I'm just trying to stay out of it. I'm not really trying to get into any political side of things here, because I really don't want any issues. I'm still going to continue doing this the mobile work, but it will be limited most likely on the weekends. It could be during the week, but very unlikely. But it'll be mostly weekend work for the most part. And so I will get into that. I'll probably get into that a little later in the video if I'm able to. So another example, I'm just going to give you a few examples. This is a real life scenario examples that I have dealt with personally with these types of people. I probably met maybe half a dozen or so of these types of people with the insecurities. It's not super common, but I do meet these kind of people from time to time with these characteristics. And when these people do have these characteristics, I typically most of the time I don't get along with them. Sometimes I may get along with them 25 to 50% at most. And then there could be some of those individuals I may not get along with at all, or will not talk to at all, or they will not talk to me, which is 0% of the time. So that's pretty much I'm not talking to that person at all. And so moving on up, there was a shop that I worked for, independent shop, years ago. This was maybe like 12 years ago uh, or something. And I've worked for that shop for close to 5 years. And I stayed at that shop. It was a very good learning shop for me. That's where I started my apprenticeship. And my boss, he was a very good boss, very good at the management, and very good with everything was structural and orderly, organized, absolutely everything. But again, no management can be perfect. There'll always be some form of issues along the way, but yet you do have to have the correct infrastructure, the correct people that's working for you, working for my boss. And so you have to have the right people for the right industry, for the right job, everything, in order for everything to go smoothly. And so I did have some issues here and there. Uh, and so there was this particular one coworker I worked with. He was a licensed technician, probably has well over, at the time, maybe over 20 years experience, older gentleman. Uh, and so at the time I was still learning. I was still in the learning phase. And we are always learning in this industry, regardless if you are an apprentice or licensed, it doesn't matter. But when I'm saying learning, is that still gaining the baby steps and the learning experience on how things work, right? And how to do diagnostic work and things like that, right? how to repair how to repair vehicles, how to maintain vehicles. You have to learn. There's a lot to learn in the very beginning. And so there were some instances where this coworker, he would be jealous from me because I could actually, like, after I've been in that shop for 2 or 3 years straight, I could actually diagnose vehicles and find problems. Uh, a lot of stuff, drivability and electrical diagnostics. And so because I was good at that, and my boss knew that I was good at that, this coworker in particular, he had a form of insecurity because he would get mad or get jealous because I could diagnose something, because his diagnostic skills were not very good. I don't mean to make fun of people, but he couldn't diagnose a sandwich, for instance, right? Maybe something very basic, and that's it. He was always a struggle to diagnose stuff. Things like could be as simple as diagnosing a bad ABS wheel speed sensor, or intermittent ABS wheel speed sensor, or something like that. At the time, this was like back in 2014, 2015, 2016, 2015, 2016 times, maybe 10 years ago or something like that. And so the issue is that the vehicles that came in, it would not sometimes the vehicle would go to one technician after they diagnose it, then that vehicle would go to a different technician to do the repair, or they would put the car out, and then later in the day the service advisors would resort the work order and assign it to a specific tech. So we would just bring in the vehicles, diagnose them. After it's diagnosed, we put the vehicle outside and move on to the next vehicle, and diagnose that vehicle, put the vehicle outside and move on to the next, depending if there was a diagnostic or something else, or if there were other things that non-diagnostic stuff like brake jobs or transmission flushes or something. And so and not all the time that when you worked on a vehicle, it didn't necessarily mean that you were going to do the repairs or do the diagnostics. Sometimes and one of the senior techs would be doing the diagnostics, and then later the vehicle would come to me to do the repairs, and vice versa. And so the things worked a little different at this shop. And so I was, of course, I was limited to what work would come to me in comparison to the skills that I have already acquired, and what I know already. And so it didn't necessarily mean that if a technician diagnosed something, if it was like a really big job or something, and then it would go to that technician or to a different senior technician. It would not come to me, because the bigger jobs, they typically would not allow me to do the bigger jobs. But not always the case, but most of the times the bigger jobs would go to the licensed techs. At the time I was an apprentice. So anyhow, just maybe an example. There was one vehicle that I worked on. I think it was a 2001 Chevrolet Cavalier with a 2.2. I still remember. I think 6 months prior, like when I was working at that shop, 6 months prior, I did a valve cover gasket on that vehicle because it had an oil leak, and then that was it. It was fine. It didn't come back. And then after 6 months, it came in for a no start, crank no start, I believe. I didn't diagnose the vehicle. It was that coworker that I was telling you about earlier. He supposedly diagnosed the vehicle, and then he put it outside. They pushed it outside. They pushed it out so that he could work on a different vehicle until the customer approved for and whatever repair that vehicle needed. He called the starter on that. And so when it came to repair that vehicle, they assigned the vehicle to me to do the repair, to replace the starter. So I went out in the parking lot, and at the time I didn't have that much experience, so I wasn't really conscious of some things. So when you crank the engine over, you'd hear the engine cranking faster than normal. You would hear, and I know that when you hear this noise, it means that the timing chain has came off. It means there's no compression in the engine. And so the 2.2 Ecotech engines, and some of the 2.2 GM Ecotech engines were infamous for the timing chain to come off, leading to no compression, most likely damaging the engine. And that's what happened in this case. I believe the technician made a grave mistake, thinking that the pinion was not engaging onto the flex plate or flywheel. I think this was an automatic transmission, so a flex plate. So it was not engaging. And so because the technician didn't do his due diligence, it bit him in the rear end shortly later. And so after I got somebody to bring the vehicle in, because it was parked on a slight incline, and this shop had a old fashioned, I think it was like a 1953 Ford. Ford, like a tractor or something. It's an old tractor that they have to bring vehicles in. They use the tow rope to tow the vehicle in. So I was in the car, and I think it was my boss or somebody who drove the tractor to push me in, because this car it was a no start. It was a dead car. So brought it into the shop, and then I looked at it. At the time, I only had a very little experience, right? I was still learning, so I don't know what's for some stuff. I wasn't aware or knew, and so I positioned it on the hoist. I started the job, said replace starter motor assembly, got the parts, took the old starter out, put the old starter in. And after when I was ready, I proceeded to crank it, and it was the same. Just you can hear the engine cranking faster than normal. The sound of no compression, and then that's when I stopped and I started scratching my head and wondering on what's going on here. I'm like, if I replace the starter and the starter is not the issue, I'm like, I'm not the one who diagnosed this. So I'm like, I'm not the one who diagnosed this car. It was the other guy who diagnosed it. And so my boss was still he was in the building. So I went to talk to my boss to have a quick look at it, and then my boss had a look at it. I cranked the engine over. He's like, what the hell? He's like, the timing chain came off on this, right? Because he just knew that there's no compression in the engine. And so at the end, my boss gave my coworker shit and saying, hey, this is not a starter problem. This is an engine problem. And so now my coworker got in trouble. And then now, at that particular moment, my coworker, in front of my boss, my coworker was yelling at me and saying that I'm deaf and I can't hear and that and this. And I'm not saying anything. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm like, hey, it said here replace the starter, so I replaced the starter, and unfortunately, it's still doing the same thing when the old starter was on it. So I'm like, is the starter the problem on this? And at the very end, my boss told me to leave the car. My boss said that they're gonna push the car in my other coworker's bay. My coworker is gonna take the new starter out, put it back in the new box, and put the old starter back in. and push the car out, and then the foreman has to get involved to check the engine and to verify that this vehicle had no compression and why it had no compression. Ultimately, they checked it out. All four cylinders had 0 psi, no compression. Stated stated that most likely the timing chain has came off, uh, possible damage to valves, this and that. And so the service advisor phoned the customer, and then the customer just gave up, just said that's it. They ended up junking the car at the very end, and that was it. And that's the story for that one. But there were a lot of episodes, and this same coworker, this same guy that I worked with, he was actually started to physically. He used to physically assault me, shoving pry bars up up between my ass, and he's like, aggravating. He's just assaulting me here and there. One time he was trying to fight with me. I didn't do anything. He was just trying to cause problems. My boss came back into the shop and found out that we were both fighting. I was just trying to defend myself to get away from him, and my boss was yelling on the top of his lungs, telling us to stop. And then I was in trouble, and he was in trouble. But because that my boss, he liked me so much, I continued to stay employed with him. And this was a very rare occurrence and situation, which I guess I can say I survived to to keep my job only in this particular instance. In no other times where I had this situation, I was able to keep my job. This was the only time, because I already knew and know that my boss, he loved me. He wanted me to stay and to be continue to be employed with him, because he knew my worth. He knew I was a valuable asset to the company, and so that's why I continued working with him for a period of time, and also to finish my apprenticeship. And so anyhow, back to this coworker. Uh, there were many other incidents as well, very similar. That because I did a job, and then excuse me, I did a job, and this coworker got mad because of whatever reason that is, trying to find issues, even if the issues were there or not, trying to find problems so that he can, because because that particular person is insecure about themselves. So when somebody is insecure about themselves, they start to blame shifting, blaming others for their mistakes. They cannot take accountability, and so that's what happened, right? That's just one example there. I know this video has gone a little way too long than I expected, but whatever. I'm just gonna keep talking. Up to you guys. You wanna keep watching? Keep watching. If not, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna keep continue on this video. I know it's longer than anticipated, and so now I'm moving on to my last and final example. At the Ford dealership that I used to work at. And so I'm not going to mention any names once again. But anyhow, there was one. I was at this particular dealership. It was not too bad. The management was somewhat okay. My coworkers, most of them were okay, but there were a couple I just didn't get along with, because of their behaviors and stuff. it's just over the years I've noticed that sometimes the older guys can be grumpy and stuff, and so they're not approachable. I just avoid them altogether because really I'm the kind of person who doesn't really want any trouble or problems. But anyhow, there was one particular coworker. Uh, this person was I don't know how to say it. They had, I didn't mention earlier in the video about like personality disorders and things like that. And so this person may have something called avoidant personality disorder, avoids certain people for specific reasons because just it depends on their own personal situation, and once again it falls in the category of insecurities. And so these types of people, uh, like this particular person, I didn't say a single word to them. They just wouldn't talk to me for whatever reason. I don't know why. It's beyond me. And so and the issue is, I think this person that I used to work with, I think they did like engines and stuff, but they weren't. I heard that they weren't really good in diagnostics. Again, it's these types of people, not always, but these are the types of people. The ones that have insecurities are usually the ones with the who are not really good at doing diagnostics, only to a certain particular uh, area or category that they can do diagnostics in. But as soon as like it's electrical and other stuff, they just can't do it. It's I think it may be beyond the scope of their capability or something, or I don't know what. And so there are some people who just there are some people who just avoid learning, who just don't want to learn or don't want to improve on what needs to be done. They want to keep doing on what they are already doing, so they avoid all the other stuff. And so that's the problem, right? You can't be a person who says, "Well, yeah, I just want to do brake jobs all day long and nothing else." That's not how this industry works. You have to be able to know everything. You have to keep on learning. Is always learning something new. Always improving your skills. Always trying to figure things out, right? And working on cars, especially problem vehicles, you're always diagnosing and trying to figure out what the problem is and what caused the issue and so on. And so it's not going to be as simple as doing brake jobs or doing this, right? Like I know gravy jobs and straightforward jobs that doesn't require investigation work, right? Because it's straightforward. You're just taking it apart and putting it back, right? But again, even some of those jobs is not always easy. Taking things apart and putting back together. That's part of being a mechanic or technician altogether. And so this particular individual, anytime I was in the parts department waiting for parts, he'd come in and just wouldn't even look at me. I don't know why. Right? It's beyond me. Right? I just try my best to get along with people, uh, and if they don't like me, that's too bad. That's not my problem. I just focus on my own work. I focus on my own thing. I put my head down. I get the jobs done, and that's it. It's not my problem. If somebody doesn't want to talk to me because of some stupid reason, because the way I look, or because I have a disability or hearing aids, glasses, or whatever, I don't know. I don't know. That's not my problem, right? Uh, these people, these people are still acting like a child in an adult's body. These people haven't grown up yet. They're still a child. Eh? You can't really pick and choose on who you deal with sometimes, right? You're in a workplace environment. You have to know how to deal with everybody. You can't ignore these people, right? Everybody is there to work. Everybody is trying to work as a team to get things done, right? These people are not the only people who need to put the bread and butter on the table, right? They're not the only one that has a wife, kids, and family and whatever, right? I also have wife, kids, and family, and need to put the bread, butter, and milk on the table. Everybody needs to collect the paycheck and pay their bills and live, right? There's nobody different. Everybody's the same. Right? We're all human beings. Everyone's the same. So why are these people treating me this way? Why are they? Right? Like I said, it's because these people have insecurities, right? And I believe that some of these individuals, when they see me, especially as a technician, they see me as a threat. They see me as a threat to them. So they develop coping mechanisms to avoid me or to put me in trouble, so that they get rid of me, and so that's it, right? And I didn't discuss about on how to deal with these people, and really you can't really deal with these people. The way to deal with these people is actually to not deal with them at all, right? Unless they are part of your family or something, that's a different story. But if they are your coworkers and they're not if you don't have anything to do with them and you don't really need to talk to them, it's best to avoid them completely. Because really, if they are avoiding you, and you have already took the you have already took the actions that are necessary to talk to them, and they don't really want to talk to you, there's nothing you can do after that, right? Especially if you speak with management. What you can't fix these people. They are and who they are, because all of these people with personality disorders, whether they are a narcissist or whatever, I don't want to get into the details really, but these types of people, these personality disorders, most of the time, 99% of the time, stems from childhood trauma, in which the environment in which they were raised in which how their parents treated them, and family members treated them, right? If they were in a very harsh environment, when they grow up, they're gonna behave. They're gonna behave in a certain way. They start to develop a coping uh, a mechanism of some sort. So that way, that keeps them the way they are, and so that's why these kind of people behave this way, right? If you're in an abusive environment, they're gonna start developing these coping mechanisms to I don't know how to explain it. I'm really out for words, and so these people develop something in such a way, and so that's how they behave in the end. And so this is not good, because really when you're working in the workplace, and especially if you're working as a team, you have to be able to work with everybody, whether you like them or you don't like them. I understand they are not your friends, they are your co-workers. Okay? You don't need to get personal with everybody. You just need to deal with them accordingly, just to get the job done, and then that's it. That's it. Everybody's there to make a paycheck, and at the end, everybody's there to go home and come back and repeat. And that's it. And once again, why people behave this way? Because it is a mechanism to manage the intense or chronic feelings of fear, rejection, inadequacy, and things like that, right? It's it's they say it's something that they have to protect protect themselves against emotional pain and social humiliation and things like that. And so this is why that these people are avoiding certain people, because again, these people fear about they fear their job, they fear competition, they fear that they will lose their job or something like that, something along the lines, right? But there's a very again there's there is a lot more to it than just that. It really gets deep into the realm of the inner psychology of these types of people. You really need to study deeply to understand how these people work. And once you can understand how these people work, you will know, you kind of know on what to do and how to protect yourself and how to deal with them. And so, for this very reason, when you're in the workplace, it's probably best to not share too much of your personal life or personal information. Just keep things brief, right? And just see how these people are, right? Some people you can trust, but there are some people that you can't really trust much with personal information. So it's just best to keep things to yourself, because really you're just there to work. You're not there to make friends. Although you can make friends, but really in this day and age now, and how people are, you really need to be on the sidelines and just watch, observe, watch how these guys are. I'm not saying to always be serious all the time. It's okay sometimes. A couple small jokes here and there, if you know them, if you have know them well enough, the people that you are good with, right? Because it's unfortunate that I was let go at that dealership, but there's not much I can do. It's not the end of the world. Uh, Always moving forward uh, towards advancement and just improving on what you need to do, and that's it. There's really it's I don't know on what to say here, but I've been trying to find like a happy medium on and trying to figure out my work and financial situation over the years. And so it's been tough because why is it that my coworkers should depict on how my life should be, or depict on what my employment should be, right? Because I'm just there to do my job and get the cars finished and done, and that's it. And then I have somebody trying to make my life more difficult and trying to damage my reputation, to damage to I don't know, they have something called a smear campaign for people spread false things about you to damage your reputation over time. And so it's not fair. It's a sad reality, but this is what has happened to me uh, multiple times, over and over and over again, right? Uh, it's not only because of that, but it could be because of other things too, right? Productivity, efficiency issues sometimes, right? Sometimes employers are worried about the hours and the efficiency and the times of you getting the jobs done and things like that, right? Again, it's not always about the coworker that's damaging your reputation. Sometimes it can be other underlying issues too. Regarding that, that could be efficiencies at times, how good or how long it take to do a certain job, and things like that, right? And so uh, there are many reasons why somebody, in general, why somebody would get dismissed at the workplace. There are multiple reasons, whether you're in the right or in the wrong. Anybody can be let go anytime for any reason. It doesn't matter who you are. And really, there's no way to protect yourself sometimes, because really, all boils down to if the boss likes you or doesn't like you. And sometimes, I probably didn't mention earlier, there's a lot of political things involved, a bunch of politics and stuff. I personally avoid all of the political stuff because it's a bunch of BS. So I try to stay away from that. All the political issues at work, you don't want any of that. You really want to stay away from all that stuff. Over the years, there's a lot of politics and bullshit involved, and so sometimes it's hard to avoid that. Even though if you're the nicest guy in the world or not, it doesn't matter, right? Even if you have all the skills or not, it all depends, right? And sometimes you just gotta try your best. You need to put your head down, work, and that's it, right? Everybody always tells me, "Oh, don't talk to anybody, don't do this, don't do that. Just work, put your head down, and go home." Right? Easier said than done, right? But there's not much that you can do, right? It's the sad reality of this industry that some people, particularly like myself, had to go through that, and still going through that to this very day. And some of these people with the insecurities, they also have the passive aggressive behavior with these insecurities. And so they have I believe they have set themselves boundaries, but against you. They have set boundaries against you, and so that way they don't want you. Uh, they don't want you to be in their zone. Because they see you as a threat, so they want to try to get rid of you. And so this is why they behave this way. Why they behave this way again is because of has to do with childhood trauma, when they were born and raised by their parents and family members, and how they were treated. And so they develop these kind of coping mechanisms to offset this. And so that's why there's all these problems, eh? Automotive industry is very harsh, eh? This doesn't apply to everybody. I'm just talking about these particular people that I have dealt with. They are they are small in number, but again, it's quite common. I'm not gonna say that I won the lottery, because the the uh, the percentages don't always work in my favor, right? So I can't say the exact percentages, but these people exist. These people are there. And it's not only in the automotive industry, but it's also in other industries too. And so the best thing to do is sometimes to avoid them, because avoid them completely. If anybody is giving you problems, depending on the scenario, right? It depends. If this person is your boss or your coworker, you have to assess. You really have to assess the risk factor, and you have to see if do you need to deal with this person or not. Do you really need to talk to them? And if you don't need to deal with them, then there's no need to talk to them, and then don't talk to them, because if you start talking to them, that's when they're gonna start giving you problems. So you're better off not dealing with these people. These, honestly, in my opinion, these people are garbage. You don't want to deal with them, right? Because if they were not garbage, they wouldn't behave this way. So just dispose them, and throw them in the trash can, because really these people are of no benefit, because all they are going to do is just cause you more problems that you don't need. And again, you're just there to make a paycheck, work and put your head down, and that's it. I have probably have missed quite a few points about these insecure people. These insecure people are constantly, they need validation. They need to seek validation from others, and maybe not from you directly, but from other people, particularly in the shop environment, and particularly if there's a foreman or if there's a boss involved. They constantly need to seek validation. It's part of them. So they constantly want to seek validation. The attention, kind of like a attention seeking behavior. And so the it's because that they are not confident. They don't have the confidence in themselves, and so they need somebody to validate them. They say that, yeah, they're doing a good job, and so on. And so this video I feel like this video is gonna keep going on and on, but I think I made myself a point. I've set the I've got the point across on what I'm talking about. And so you really need to be careful about these people. You need to be aware of who you're dealing with, because as soon as you know that they're insecure, it's a major red flag. That's when if you can avoid them to a certain point, then avoid them. Only talk to them if it's absolutely necessary. Because if it gets worse, if it gets bad or any worse, then it could put your position, put your job in jeopardy, and it might be you that may end up losing your job. And particularly if you are the new guy or the newly hired guy, you need to watch out. So, like I said, you need to be on the sidelines, and you need to watch these people's behaviors who you're dealing with. But while being on the sidelines, to keep your head down and focused on your work. Don't worry about anybody else. Focus on your work. Get it done. And that's it. Once it's done, put the car, the truck outside, or and whatever the heck you're working on. Bring in the next vehicle. Put your head down and keep working. And that's it. You just keep on repeating. And hopefully, I don't know if any of you guys have been through similar issues, but uh, hopefully that will help. If not, the only solution is that you will be forced either to resign and switch jobs and work somewhere else, uh, unless they dismiss you, unless you wait for the employer to dismiss you. Because other than that, there's not much that you can do in this particular situation. And so it's like chess, right? If you're put in a checkmate situation, you can't move anymore. If you're put in the corner, you're stuck. You're forced to give up. There's not much you can do. Once you run out of moves, then that's it. You're forced to resign, and to move on, go work for some other shop. And that's what happened with me in most cases. I was forced either to leave, or until they dismissed me, then I had to go work somewhere else. And this is entirely why I started my own business, because of this political nonsense that I've been dealing with. And my business is okay. I say it's more of a side hustle, because it's not exactly a replacement income, but it's okay for side jobs, to make some extra cash and stuff, and it helps a considerable amount, and that's it. And that's the reason why, that's probably the reason why I can't work with people these days, because there's always somebody there in the corner who wants to cause problems with insecurities, and to bring you those problems that you don't need, right? And life is better. Life is better without having these people, because there's no benefit when these people are there. They're just gonna put your job in jeopardy and cause you to lose your job, and that's exactly in what happened here, right? And then other people are gonna think that I'm the problem. I'm the guy with the attitude problem. I'm the one who fights with everybody. Or I'm the one who's angry. Is not the case, right? The other person plays the victim card. They play the victim card, and I'm the one who gets in trouble, when really I'm the one who's the true victim, and that's it. So the last thing that I wanted to say about the and why people have these personality disorders, the most is because early childhood trauma, and the environment, the life experiences that you deal with, that shapes your personality. And very rarely the genetics, family history of the condition. So I think that's going to be it for this one. I think I have made this video long enough. So that's going to be it. Uh, have a good night and take care.